The book publisher Puffin is rewriting Roald Dahl's classic children's books so his literature can, quote, continue to be enjoyed by all today. Edits have been made to change descriptions of the characters' physical appearances, including Augustus Gloop being changed to enormous instead of fat, and Mrs. Twit is no longer ugly and beastly. She's just beastly. In his book, The Witches, a paragraph explaining that witches are bald beneath their wigs ends with a new line, there are plenty of other reasons why women might wear wigs, and there is certainly nothing wrong with that. Gender-neutral terms have been added as well. The Oompa Loompas from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory were described as small men. Now they are small people. And the Cloud Men from James and the Giant Peach are now cloud people.
Puffin and the Roald Dahl Story Company made these changes in conjunction with Inclusive Minds, which its spokesperson describes as a collective for people who are passionate about inclusion and accessibility in children's literature. The co-founder, Alexandra Strick, said they aim to ensure authentic representation by working closely with the book world and with those who have lived experience of any facet of diversity. The Roald Dahl Story Company said regarding the changes that when publishing new print runs of books written years ago, it is not unusual to review the language used alongside updating other details, including a book's cover and page layout. Our guiding principle throughout has been to maintain the storylines, characters, and the irreverent and sharp-edged spirit of the original text. Any changes may have been small and carefully considered.
Some of those changes don't seem very small. Some do, whatever, tweaks to the language over time, okay, but that was editorializing. That was adding a whole other sentence about wigs. Why women can wear wigs.
Yeah, actually, the one about the twits, I think, was problematic to me. I gotta say, I loved Roald Dahl. I grew up with Roald Dahl the way that the kids these days feel about Harry Potter. So this story is hitting home for me. The twits, the whole point of the story is that he describes these two people whose being ugly on the inside reflects them being ugly on the outside. And he goes on to say that if you're a good person, even if you have no chin and pockmarks and all these other features, you're still beautiful because your spirit beams from the outside. And there's a Quentin Blake illustration, the guy who famously did all the illustrations for the books, that shows a rotund, not conventionally attractive woman, but she's got curly hair, she's beaming and she's happy. And he says she's beautiful because she's a good person inside. So the idea that you feel like you have to take ugly out of the description, he quite literally wasn't meaning it literally ugly. He was speaking to a person's spirit in a kind of Victorian literature sort of way where people's outsides and insides are written as matching up.
Yeah, that shows how I think not well informed a lot of this. Who are these sensitivity readers who are going to rewrite everything for us and decide what we're allowed to decide what's acceptable? This just sounds like an incredibly slippery slope. I mean, make a new story if you want to use language that fits you. Write something new. Don't redo the old thing.
I mean, it's hard because on the other hand, there is this argument that says the people who are involved are part of this Roald Dahl group who want the book to sell and do well. Yeah. They're profiting off of it. And it is true that you probably wouldn't have a story today where you would write about a 9-year-old being enormously fat, or you probably wouldn't write one of the descriptions of Matilda is that Miss Trunchbull, the evil principal, has a horsey face, or describing kids as 8 nutty little idiots. I mean, it is colorful.
We have to sanitize
British.
The language. Yeah,
it's British. It's colorful. It's so. What would you say to someone who says, "Look, the people who have the rights to this book and want it to sell and want it to do well in a more sensitive market have every right to offer new editions of this book"?
Well, they clearly have every right. I don't think there's any serious argument that they don't have the right to do that. I think we have the right as people of good taste to just object to this sanitizing, this whitewashing, this effort to redo old things. Just do something new. Just stop it. And I've seen this get nothing but criticism, by the way, from virtually
everyone. Salman Rushdie,
everyone
every corner
is mad.
Yeah.
So publishers don't think these things through. Maybe if you're only listening to the opinion of your sensitivity readers, you're going to come out with some really bad products, some really bad books or changes to books that most normal people don't think is necessary at all.
I have another hard follow-up for you. Okay. I'm just trying to think through and test my reasoning on this. There are some nursery rhymes that were changed so long ago that many of us don't remember what their original words were. Things like "Any, Meeny, Miny, Mo, catch a tiger by its toe." It wasn't originally tiger. It was inward. And there are a number of these classic rhymes that in their original iterations would be very offensive to the contemporary ear. Should those have not been changed? Should we have relegated, Ring Around the Rosie and all of this stuff to the dustbin of history? Do we think there's a level of language that merits change because there's just been so much social change and the language is so ugly and demeaning of a given group? Or just categorically, should we just reinvent everything new if social mores shift?
I mean, the things, children recite those, so I don't think it's necessary to have children just like belting out the N-word or expletives.
But they learn. I mean, these are written up in books and fairy tales and on posters and rhymes. I mean, there is a written version of all of these things. They're not just being passed down purely by word of mouth.
Yeah.
So there's a question about, I think there is probably
that's a
space in which there's editorial
ugly
judgment.
slur that it's okay to not use in something children say over and over again. But I was listening to. I just started. I was an English major, but you have gaps. Things you should have. Maybe you were supposed to read in college and you didn't. So I'm trying to make up for some of those. So I just started listening to. I'm listening to it on audiobooks while I drive and go to the gym. And I downloaded the Sound and the Fury by Faulkner, and I'm listening to it on audio tape. And so very early on, there's the reader says the N-word because that's what the characters say, because they're a Southern, formerly aristocratic family that is collapsing with the changing of the times, et cetera. And it's ugly to hear it, but it's very. I don't think you would want to change this very important, pivotal work of literature.
No, certainly not. But is it different when it's the kids? Because so many of these arguments have been about, but it's the children, and including we have to say, so many books and that have been now censored under the Woke Act in Florida as a consequence of violating those policies, not because they are inappropriate for children in terms of being harsh or rude or hurtful language, but because they teach global warming as a scientific fact. Or, because there is some aspect of kind of teaching the structural racism as a thing.
I don't want to burn the books.
Like
I don't want to take the books off the shelves. I don't want to change the books. Just let the books be the way they are.
So that also means
Gloop's feelings notwithstanding. But you're right to point out that that it's a theme of Roald Dahl's work that like the goodness can overcome the now he also does describe those characters in very negative terms because they're nasty little whippersnappers.
The bald witches are bad because they're like turning children into mice
and eating them.
Correct.
Or do they eat them no, they don't like mice.
Oh no, they're
no.
It's been a while.
They don't like mice. They get turned into mice. Or they're trying to turn them into mice. The protagonist and his grandmother are trying to turn the witches into
maybe
mice.
what we should both do is go home and stream the new version of Witches, which I never saw because remember there was that controversy then too because the Anne Hathaway remake featured her having some kind of hand prosthetic that people who have a particular kind of disability said was mocking their physical disability, and Anne Hathaway ended up apologizing for that kind of prosthetic costume and makeup choice. So I never caught that one, but maybe it's time for me to refresh.
I think that was the original one with Angelica Houston.
No, I saw the original.
Yeah,
because like I said, I'm a big Roald Dahl head. I love Roald Dahl.
I love the original Willy Wonka movie.
Course.
The redone one is terrible.
Johnny Depp.
I thought was not good.
Not a Johnny Depp fan.
I do like Johnny Depp. I found him off-putting in that role. I like him in a lot of things. I don't like him as much as in others. That one was a misfire for me. But the original movie is so weird and delightful and just. Yeah, I loved it.
It's phenomenal. Roald Dahl, in his adult books, as a kid, I ran through every single book in the library shelves and moved on to his more adult and young adult literature. The Story of Henry Sugar and Six More, all of that. Just wonderful, wonderful stuff to read.
Why didn't Grandpa Joe get out of bed and start earning a living for his poor family? Now there's a golden ticket. And, I'm feeling better. I can get out of bed.
Robbie's revisionist takes of Grandpa Joe notwithstanding, I'm glad to see there's so much pushback on this particular revision of literature, and we will have more Rising for you after this.